I'm Ted Novin, Director of Public Affairs for the National Shooting Sports Foundation, the trade association for America's firearms and ammunition industry. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the importance of safeguarding traditional ammunition, or ammunition containing lead core components. Right now we're seeing that they're under attack throughout the country. Just last week, the Center for Biological Diversity, along with several other agenda-driven groups, petitioned the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, to ban the use of traditional ammunition. This is something that would affect all gun owners. To set the record straight, we've asked NSSF Senior Vice President and General Counsel Lawrence G. Keane to sit down with us today. Larry, thanks so much for joining us here in studio today.
It's a pleasure to be with you, Ted.
Let's talk about what happened last week with the Center for Biological Diversity.
Well, last week, the Center for Biodiversity and a couple of other groups filed a petition with the Environmental Protection Agency seeking really unprecedented action on the part of EPA. They're asking EPA under a statute called the Toxic Substance Control Act to ban all traditional ammunition in the United States, claiming that that traditional ammunition, because it uses lead components, is somehow a danger to wildlife and a danger to human health. So they're seeking to have the EPA, under its authority under the Toxic Controlled Substance Act, issue regulations to ban all traditional ammunition in the United States.
So this would not only affect sportsmen, this would also affect target shooters, anyone using ammunition.
And law enforcement. It would apply to all ammunition in the United States, not just ammunition that's used for hunting, but all ammunition, because it would be predicated on this theory that somehow the use of lead to manufacture traditional ammunition, the bullets, the projectiles, is somehow, causes a harm to wildlife or harm to human health.
Let's explore those two allegations. Is there at all a harm to wildlife population, raptors, other wild animals?
There's not, and it's ironic that the center's petition has on the cover a picture of a bald eagle, and they try to really sort of wrap themselves around the bald eagle around their petition. But the irony is that bald eagles are no longer an endangered species, and in fact their populations have increased so much that most states have stopped surveying nesting pairs since 2006, because there's so many of them. And what makes it ironic is the fact that it's the conservation dollars that are raised through the excise taxes, the Pittman-Robertson Trust Fund, that are raised from the sale of that ammunition is what paid for the eagle and other wildlife populations to be restored and to recover in the United States. So the ammunition that the center demonizes and seeks to ban is what paid for conservation.
What about the human health risk allegation? Is there any truth to that? Wasn't there a CDC study on this a couple years back?
Well, they're back in about 2008. Another anti-traditional ammunition group called the Peregrine Fund, one of their board members came out with a so-called study claiming to show that there was lead in venison at food pantries in North Dakota. And leaving aside the fact that it wasn't really a true study and that the person doing the study was a board member of this organization that has an avowed policy position. The CDC came in and did a study of hunters in North Dakota, and they looked at what their blood lead levels were of the hunters against a control group. And what they found was that the hunters in the control group had blood lead levels less than half of the average human walking around the streets of the United States. So if you were just to pick somebody off of the street at random, the chances are that they would have twice the level of lead in their blood as the hunters in North Dakota. And nobody in the study, none of the hunters, none of the kids, nobody in the study had a blood lead level that remotely approached the level of concern, the threshold of concern that the Center for Disease Control has established for blood lead levels. I mean, not even close. So there was in fact, the study established that there was really no human health risk whatsoever. And of course, that's consistent with, for example, the state of Iowa, which has been testing blood lead levels of their citizens for many, many years for general purposes. There's not a single reported case of anybody having elevated blood lead levels, let alone having lead poisoning or having any serious consequences from having lead in their blood that they got from consuming game harvested with traditional ammunition. And there's not a single reported case of that anywhere in the United States.
So it seems like this is really more of a political agenda that these groups are trying to to push?
This is agenda-driven petition with agenda-driven science that does not look at managing wildlife populations. It's about preventing harm to individual animals. It's not about managing populations of animals. And of course, that's what wildlife biologists do. They manage wildlife populations. They don't manage to prevent harm from individual animals. Because if it becomes about preventing harm to individual animals, well, you've just made the argument to ban hunting. And of course, we think that that's ultimately what is underlying this push and this agenda, is to destroy hunting in the United States and put an end to hunting in the United States.
And in the process, as you said earlier, it seems this will also affect everyone that goes out to the range that wants to shoot, trap, and skeet. I mean, this has much larger implications, which is not to say that certainly a threat to ban hunting is pretty significant in and of itself.
This petition applies to all ammunition. It applies to law enforcement ammunition, for example. It would apply to .22 caliber rimfire at shooting ranges. Can you imagine what the cost would be to sportsmen, to target shooters, if they had to purchase alternative ammunition made with different compositions of metals? It would be dramatically more expensive, and it would have a devastating impact not only on hunting but on target shooting. And of course, the ammunition that's sold for target shooting also goes, the taxes raised from that sale goes to pay for conservation as well. So this will have a devastating impact on not only on target shooting and hunting, but also on wildlife conservation as a whole in the United States.
So the very animals they're trying to protect, in theory, will actually be negatively impacted should this ban ever go into place.
Hunters are the original conservationists. Hunters have done more to protect wildlife than the Center for Biodiversity will ever do with this endless lawsuits and this baseless petitions.
Well, what can people do to ensure that their voices are heard on this?
Well, there's a couple of things they can do. First is they need to get educated on the facts, and they can do that by visiting our website and getting information. The second thing they can and they really need to do is they need to pick up the phone and they need to call the Environmental Protection Agency, and that information will be on the screen in a moment. You need to call the Environmental Protection Agency and tell the administrator, Lisa Jackson, that you're strongly opposed to this petition, that it's not based on science, it's not based on facts, and it's really agenda-driven. And the last thing they need to do is they need to get on the phone and they need to call their member of Congress and their senators and make sure that they understand the threat that this represents to hunters, to sportsmen, target shooters, and to wildlife conservation in the United States.
Great. Well, Larry, thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us this afternoon. We appreciate you being here.
It's always a pleasure to be with you, Ted.